It's Friday, folks. We made it. Another week is in the books. Another month has come and gone. It's August, and we are that much closer to the regular season in the Queen City. Welcome into your one stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. It's a Friday episode of Hornets Daily here, and as always, we're presented by the good people over at FanArc. I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you know by now, you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody for watching along with us, joining along in the program today. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. We've gotten to interact a little bit down there in the chat this week. Always fun to do that. Watch you guys interact with each other as well as we continue to build the Hornets Daily family here on the program. Again, it is a special Friday episode, always the fun ones as we wrap up the week here. Got a few things buzzing around down in Charlotte. A couple things on the docket so far. The win totals have been released by Las Vegas. They came out earlier this week. Is the number set for Charlotte too high? Is it too low? We'll go over and we'll talk about some of my thoughts on that win total on the show today. Sports Illustrated has decided to rank the two-way guys that are currently under contract for the Hornets. We'll talk about those rankings. Spoiler alert, I am going to love number one. We'll break those down a little bit as well. There's a couple of guys on this team that are coming into a very, very important year number two here in the NBA. We'll go over who those guys are and talk about one specifically and how his development is going to directly affect the success of the Hornets in the regular season. We'll go over that today as well. And the Hornets, they still have to be quite active before the regular season gets underway. They've got a roster purge really left to make. Got to get the number down to 15. Multiple writers have been laying out their opinions on what the Hornets should do. There's a couple over at Hornets SI that I'm picking out today that have weighed in on what they feel should be the moves to trim the fat down in Charlotte and get that roster number down to from 18 down to 15. If you know about the program, you know we don't do beating around the bush here. We like to dive right into it head first, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. I told you Las Vegas has released their win totals for the regular season. The Hornets sit at somewhere between 24.5 and 26, just depending on what site you go and look at. I'm using ESPN Bet specifically. That's where I found the 24.5, which is the fourth lowest win total in the league in terms of Vegas odds. It also, shockingly, the thing that surprised me the most, it is between 2 and 4, again, depending on what site you look at, between 2 and 4 games lower than the win total from last season. And that, again, is the part that got my attention, that kind of jumped out at me. I think that's a little bit crazy. It just doesn't, it seems wild to me to think that, especially on paper, this team hasn't gotten better and it shouldn't improve on their win total from last year. Maybe that's Vegas saying they set last year's win total a little bit too high. I'm not sure, but I just don't understand how you can look at what's been done so far in the offseason. And trust me, I understand the questions that still loom around this roster, the young core, the young rookies. How are they going to be? Can Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball get and stay healthy? And then what is going to happen at the 5 position? I get all of those questions, trust me, but I still think that with the moves that have been made this offseason, the assets and the acquisitions that have been brought in, this team is better than they were last season. And giving a win total that much lower than the one from last year, again, it feels like a wild move to me. It feels crazy because, again, despite those big man issues, we talked about them a lot here on the program. They get talked about every day, everywhere now, because that is the glaring issue in Charlotte. Despite those issues, I really feel like in what is going to be a thrift shop version of the Eastern Conference next year, this team is poised to find themselves somewhere in the middle of the pack of that conference, way above the bottom tier that the experts and now Vegas have the Hornets sitting in so far this summer. I just feel like they're better than what people think they are. I know that's bias here coming from where we're coming from as the host and then watchers of the show. But I just feel like they're, again, not only poised to put themselves in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference, I'm willing to go out and say that this team is going to be a middle of the pack team in the NBA. Now, I know it sounds crazy to almost be bragging about that, but trust me, from where we've been to where we're going, I think a middle of the pack team in the NBA is definitely possible for the Hornets if all things work out the way that the front office and Charles Lee have them planned to work out for. If Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball can stay healthy, if Musa Debate can be a useful piece at the 5, if Plumlee can come in and give some good minutes, and Kalkbrenner can have a good rookie year, then I genuinely believe the Hornets are set up to fly past that win number of 24.5. And what I'm telling you is that if I was a betting man, I would take that over and feel pretty confident about it going into the regular season. Again, I'm not trying to sit here and say the Hornets are going to go out and win 50 games, 58 games, whatever that may be, but I just feel like 24.5 is a pretty easy number for them to get past, especially with the Eastern Conference and the situation that it's in. I think even like 30, 32, 34 wins somewhere in there is certainly possible. Again, I know those are crazy numbers to be almost bragging about, but you got to take what you can get, and I really think that that's what the Hornets can go out and get. Now, some folks that are also going to be potentially helping that win total, not nearly the impact that LaMelo or Brandon Miller or even Miles Bridges are going to have, but a couple of guys who could also impact that win total and help push it over that 24.5 mark are the two-way guys that are currently under contract in Charlotte. Charlotte currently has all three of their two-way contracts accounted for with the likes of Drew Peterson, Antonio Reeves, and our favorite KJ Simpson. Now, Owen O'Connor of Hornets SI decided to take his time and rank and break down those three guys on two-way contracts, and his order sounded like this. He had Drew Peterson at number 3, Antonio Reeves at number 2, and KJ Simpson at number 1. Now, I feel like it's hard to disagree with those just for a variety of reasons, which we'll touch on here in just a second, but especially with KJ at number 1, just because he figures to spend the most time in the NBA of these three guys, especially this season. Plus, coming off his performance out in Las Vegas, it's hard not to have him as the best and number 1 ranked two-way contract for the Hornets this season. Now, with Drew Peterson, as we mentioned, when he was signed a while back, I don't really know what potential impact he's going to have on this roster, especially this year right away. I'm not really sure. That's still quite a big question mark for me. He is, however, a 6'9" wing who's got some familiarity with Charles Lee, as they both have spent some time with the Boston Celtics. Both were members of the 2024 championship team. A little lighter role for Peterson as he was a rookie who, again, was on a two-way deal at that time as well. Charles Lee, an assistant coach on that staff. Peterson also brings a 7'1" wingspan and is a dead-eye shooter from 3. He's a sniper from beyond the arc. That's something that we do know about him. But like a lot of other people on this team, unfortunately, he does have some question marks surrounding his defensive ability. That does seem to be a place where he needs to develop and elevate his game a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that potential's not there, because everything I can see or I can read or find about Drew Peterson, it sounds like he does. People seem to think he has the potential to become an NBA defender. I don't want to say an elite NBA defender, but definitely a competent one. It's just going to be a matter of time and him taking that time to develop and take the next steps on the defensive end, which a two-way contract is perfect for that, for him to allow himself to do that and get some more reps on defense and get a little better on that end of the floor as well. Again, still not really sure what kind of impact that Drew Peterson is going to have, but if he does, it'll be a good thing. Obviously, the more wing depth you can have, the better. If he turns into a competent NBA defender, his shooting ability on the other end of the court is already NBA ready, so that just improves something the Hornets really need to improve on anyway. Antonio Reeves, he's someone we know a lot more about in comparison to Drew Peterson and his NBA game. The former New Orleans Pelican played 44 games with that team last year and shot 39.5% from beyond the arc. So he too is added because of his shooting ability, and he is a proven sharpshooter from 3-point range in the NBA. Offense is not the problem, not the question for Reeves. He's got playmaking ability. We know he can shoot the 3. If he needs to, he's capable of getting to the rack and creating his own shot. Not really a big part of his game, but definitely something he has in his bag if you watch and just kind of pick up on his style of play. He also, though, the real question marks for him, he struggles defensively as well. I know it sounds like I'm a broken record, but I promise I'm talking about different people. Reeves struggles specifically on the ball and staying in front of the quicker ball handlers, cutting them off from getting to their spots. And so that's something he's going to need to work on. He's going to need to take that next step and develop in as well. But with him being 24 years old, I'm not sure how much quicker he's actually going to get, how much more he can add to his first step to keep those ball handlers from getting to their spots. But if you can figure out a way to cut the angles off, to stay in front, and to become a more, I keep using this word, but more competent defender in the NBA, then he too could carve himself out a nice little spot on this roster, as he is a sharpshooter with a good offensive game. But again, his age, being 24 years old, could play a disadvantage to him. He could use it as an advantage, spin the wisdom game, the experience, just a little more maturity as a 24-year-old. But being surrounded by such a young team, I mean, 24 he's older than Brandon Miller. Being surrounded by such a young team, young core, I don't know if that's going to play to his advantage or a disadvantage for him. Something to keep an eye on for with Antonio going forwards. But you know this one's coming, folks. KJ Simpson, KJ Simpson, KJ Simpson. We say it 3 times every time. The only KJ Simpson podcast on the internet right here, Hornets Daily. KJ played in 36 games last year for Charlotte, averaging 7.8 points a game. Not the best splits as well in his rookie season. But he was more than just a flash in the pan type of guy. He did have a lot of show a lot of promise, have a lot of bright spots on the court while he was filling in for the injured LaMelo Ball. He then went out and had a fantastic offseason and a sensational summer league out in Las Vegas. Con Knipple even made comment in his MVP acceptance speech that he personally would have given it to KJ based on his performance and his leadership ability, leading that team to their first summer league championship, the first championship in organization history. Be sure, if you haven't already, keep on the lookout for new shirts coming to the pop-up shop. Those things sold like hotcakes when they were released on Thursday. Hoping anybody that wanted one got one. If not, I'm sure more will be on the way. But I digress. Back to KJ. Again, he had a fantastic summer league, averaging double digits in scoring, a high number of assists in several games, showed his defensive ability as well, and again, that overall leadership as a point guard, floor general who can run the offense as a second-year guy out in Las Vegas. I just don't see any chance, realistically. I'll call my shot. I see no chance that he doesn't end this season on a standard contract with the Hornets. A lot of this comes from the preparation, the unfortunate need to prepare for an absence of LaMelo Ball. I'm not wishing for it. I'm hoping LaMelo gets an entire healthy season. But if he does have to go out, if there is an absence from LaMelo Ball, having a guy like KJ Simpson in the background there on a 2-way contract is absolutely going to be important. And I don't see any way that KJ doesn't finish this season with a standard NBA contract as a part of the Hornets roster permanently, as he just will continue to develop. He's already shown he's not just out here trying to take steps forward in his game. He's taking leaps forward in his game, and he's becoming more and more NBA ready by the day. Again, I'm calling my shot. I don't see any chance that he finishes this season on a 2-way deal. I think he gets a standard contract, especially if something like what we talked about yesterday takes place and the Hornets do decide to move on from LaMelo Ball. He plays well, his value goes up, and they feel they can get a nice haul for LaMelo. Having a guy like KJ Simpson being able to just come in and not take his place, obviously he wouldn't jump into that starting role, but being able to fill in for some of those minutes would make it a little bit easier for sure to part ways with the superstar like LaMelo Ball, especially if his value can increase and the assets are worth it down the line in the future. I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. But no matter what happens, KJ Simpson needs to be a part of the Hornets plan going forward. He's already shown too much promise to just let him walk away, let him slip, let him go somewhere else. KJ needs to be part of the plan somehow, some way going forward without question. Somebody we know for a fact is going to be part of that that plan of success going forward. Another guy coming into year number 2. Sorry about that there. He's another guy coming into year 2 here in the NBA. There's a couple of them on this roster. KJ Simpson and Antonio Reeves do fall into that category, but we just talked about them. So this is going to be a little more specific to the second year player who's going to have the most pressure on him, the most eyeballs watching over him, and that's former number 6 overall pick Tjon Salon. The big Frenchman comes in this year again with a lot of pressure, a lot of eyeballs on him, and in order for the team to take the steps they want to take, not just now but in the future, they're going to need a big sophomore season from Tjon Salon. I know we've all heard of the sophomore slump, but in reality, was Salon or any of the Hornets rookies even good enough last year to have a sophomore slump for it to even be labeled that? Now, obviously, I know you can slump. He can get worse. He can drop off. He could get worse in theory, but he played in 60 games last year for the Hornets, averaged almost 21 minutes a game for the team, and had some pretty underwhelming numbers, just 5.9 points a game and 4.7 rebounds a game. So again, I don't think those are good enough for anything to be considered a sophomore slump. So we're going to throw that one out the door, and what we're going to use here for Salon is a sophomore shine. That's what we're going to need from the Frenchman if the Hornets are going to be successful, not only this season, but going forward. And everything so far in the offseason is pointing in the direction of Salon being ready to shine in his sophomore year. He went out in Las Vegas and showed, much like KJ Simpson, that he has been working very hard in the summer. His offseason work ethic's been raved and ranted about as it was made known. He did not go home to France for the summer. He stayed in America, stayed local to work in and out each and every day on improving his game. And again, out in Las Vegas during the summer league, he definitely showed that has been working. He averaged double digits in both scoring and rebounding during his time out in the desert and looked much, much more comfortable on the floor in an NBA type setting than he did last year in his early games. Again, his offseason work has paid off. He is developing, turning into what we expected to see from the number 6 overall pick. We knew when he was drafted he wasn't taken to be the same thing that Khan is now at number 4. A right now ready guy. Go ahead, go out there, make your impact. We knew Salon's got the talent, he's got the upside, he's got the ceiling, whatever you want to call it. But we also knew when he was drafted it was going to be more of a developmental situation. I don't want to say taking a flyer because I think he was already a little bit too good for it to be a flyer, but it was a long game pick more so than Con Knipple. And in year 2, it's going to be important to see if that long game pick is paying off, if the development is working for Salon, if he continues that success. I think he knows that that's the case. He knows what's at stake, and he's shown in his time early in summer league and in practice and in camp and workouts and things like that. He's shown that he is ready to take on that pressure, ready for those eyeballs to be watching him, and ready to take that next step, play like a number 6 overall pick, and be a vital piece of this Hornets success again, not just for the regular season coming up now, but for the future as well. Salon is more than ready, I think, again, to make that impact, to take those steps. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from him so far this summer. Hopefully he can continue to do so, continue to keep working and build that sense of comfortability in the NBA and kind of trust in himself as well. Now, Salon won't be part of this for sure, but the Hornets still have some major moves, some cuts to make on the roster. As it currently sits today, the Hornets have 18 guys under contract, 2 not guaranteed. Technically, that is Moussa Diabate and Daquan Jeffries. Now, Moose is projected probably to be the starting center, so you've got to assume it's almost certain that contract will get guaranteed. All of that will be worked out. But multiple Hornets SI writers have taken their shots this week at who it is actually going to be that are the 3 players cut or traded or moved on from, whatever it may be. How are the Hornets going to get down to 15? Multiple writers over at Hornets SI have weighed in on that. Our guy Owen O'Connor and Zach Roberts are the 2 we're going to focus on. They both posted articles discussing the predicament that the Hornets are in with their roster size this late into the offseason. Zach Roberts' article quoted CBS Sports Insider James Herbert, and he's the one who coined or gave the description to the roster of weird. He talked about how it was unbalanced, how they have an allotment of guards, a slew of wing players, but a precious amount of big men inside. Again, nothing new there. Something we're all aware of. Something we've talked about several times here on the program already, even this week. He called it unbalanced. He called it weird again, as I say. Both of these writers, however, felt that Nick Smith Jr. is the easiest name to put at the top of the list for who's going to be the next one on the chopping block, who's going to be the next one to go. There was a little disagreement between the two of them on how Nick Smith is going to go, though. Owen O'Connor thinks that the Hornets could get a second-round pick for him, especially if they send him somewhere like Phoenix was the example that O'Connor used in his article, and getting back a second-round pick in return for Smith Jr. That would at least feel good to the Hornets. You feel like you got something, and hey, you never know, it could turn into something. But it's not just letting another guy walk just because you have to. Zach Roberts, however, did not feel as confident about that. He doesn't think there's much value surrounding Nick Smith Jr. He thinks that may be another situation where a player's just going to have to be waived, and it'll be Smith Jr. Now, we've talked about this next guy on the program as well. You guys in the chat have mentioned it to me several times. Daquan Jeffries is also another name right at the top of that list. He's a pretty easy one to put in that position for who the second guy is going to be during this roster purge, during the cut down to 15. It's going to be more than likely Daquan Jeffries. He's yet another one of those contracts that's not guaranteed. His is a lot different than Moose's. Obviously, with his not being guaranteed all the way to August 1st, it is you can pretty much assume that he will no longer be on the roster come the regular season. So that's two. We still need one more. The third guy is the most intriguing to me. That's the one that presents the most questions, in my opinion. It's an easy name if we want to continue down that route. What feels like an easy name would be Pat Connaughton, the veteran who was acquired from Milwaukee about a month ago. Again, he sounds like an easier name, but he comes with a $9.4 million contract buyout. And since it is August 1st and the Hornets have not already gone through with that, have not already made that buyout, it seems to me now like maybe there is a different plan in store for Connaughton. Maybe Charles Lee and the rest of the coaching staff do have a role in mind for the veteran wingman. Again, he's a proven vet in the league. He's an NBA champion. We know he is a competent defender. He can do the things that need to be done on that end of the floor, and his shooting ability, I don't even need to talk about. That goes without saying. So that then poses the question, if not Pat, who? That brings me to Josh Green. He's another name we've talked about on the show. He's another name that's been floated around on the internet as someone who could potentially be moved from Charlotte. Now, the news we got about him earlier in the week and his shoulder injury and the timetable for his recovery. Again, he is going to recover from the shoulder injury, but the timetable has become more unclear. Roderick Boone reported that there is no timetable yet still for Josh Green and his return from shoulder surgery. So that could alter things a little bit in terms of trade value and who's willing to take a chance on him, but it could also mean that there's a reason to keep Pat Connaughton, because if Green can't go or he's going to miss significant time, then you need a wing like Connaughton to come in and play defense, come off the bench, and he could also add a veteran voice, a championship mindset to the locker room. Those could be important pieces as well. So maybe it is Josh Green, and if they want to keep Pat Connaughton, it's going to almost have to be Josh Green just out of necessity. So it may come down to it being Josh Green that has to go if the Hornets do have a plan for Pat Connaughton, which the longer we go without them making that buyout, without them releasing Connaughton, it feels more and more like there may actually be a plan somewhere in the works for him. Now, this could all change over the weekend. The Hornets could move on from Connaughton. They could cut Jeffries. They could cut Smith Jr., move Josh Green. Who knows? It could all happen over the weekend. But the good news about that is if it does, we're going to be right back here on Monday with a brand new episode of Hornets Daily, bringing it all to you. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Be safe out there as always. Thanks for watching along. If you haven't, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Leave a like and a comment. Let me know your thoughts on what we talked about here on today's show. Stay safe out there. We'll see you on Monday.